So as I said, the meeting's going to be recorded. And before we begin, if you have trouble connecting to audio through your computer, you can use the call me option for the audio instead. We are going to be using the chat feature today to post questions during the presentation. Participants are welcome to go ahead and turn on your video, but know that you're going to remain muted throughout the webinar. So, trying to get my thing to advance here. Thank you for your patience. So good morning. I'm Lenore Smith, a Capacity Development Specialist here at ISAC. And with me today, I also have Tommy Semanik. He's a Professional Development Specialist also at ISAC as my co-host. We also have with us today Jamie Antonacci from Sangamon Valley High School, and she is the Director of Student Services there, and she's going to be giving us her thoughts here along the way. And we have Paul McMurrow, the Regional Sales Manager, who's going to actually do this through the bulk of the presentation. So ISAC has been partnered with Parchment for just a little bit now, just since 2011. So it's proven to work for many of our students and schools across the state of Illinois. We have actually been excited to be able to provide this service at actually no cost to both public and private schools. They can participate, and there's no fees to the school or the district for that. And we really are dedicated to providing access for all of our students across the state. Transcripts can be sent electronically, worldwide, and in paper form. And they're also available for current students, alumni, and third-party verifications. It's nice that they can actually be sent very securely to the student selected locations. Counselors also have the ability to send those transcripts on behalf of a student. I know that's a question that we usually get, so wanted to let you know that that is still available, and counselors are always, registrars are always in control of what transcripts are being approved by students. So I'm going to go ahead and without further ado, I know Jamie has let us know that she has a meeting that she has to slide off to. So I'm going to go ahead and ask Jamie to come on at this time and just give us some of her thoughts about some of the questions we have them posed here for her. So the questions that we've asked Jamie today is, how has it helped your transcript process? How has it benefited your students in the application process? And what has surprised you the most about your Parchment service? I'm going to let Jamie talk for a few minutes here.
Jamie, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I can hear you now.
Sorry about that. How has it helped our transcript process? It has streamlined the entire process immensely for us. It used to take, on occasion, depending on who was asking for the transcripts, it would take me days to dig it out of all of our files, especially the older transcript requests that we would get for alumni. But ever since we started using the Parchment process, it's a few clicks and it's on its way wherever it needs to go. So I would say it has helped in terms of how much time I save versus when I first started in this job. It gives me more time then to focus on working with students, working with my administration, working with my faculty, and helping give more time back to those other parts of the job. This is now a minimal part of my day on any given day. Whereas before, as I said, there were days that it would take me to dig through files that were in our archives. So it has absolutely streamlined the process for us. In terms of how it benefits our students, I would say the biggest thing is that not only is it quick, but it's easy for them to maneuver in their accounts, in their Parchment accounts, and for them to follow where their credentials go the entire time. When I first started in this job, a kid would ask me to mail credentials, and I would, and they'd be like, they're not getting it. They're not getting it. And I'm like, I've sent it. There were times when I sent it multiple times. And there wasn't necessarily a way to track it well in traditional mail, but Parchment allows the student to see exactly where their credentials are throughout the entire process once they make a request, which is really great for them. So then they're not so anxious and worried. They can track it the whole way there. It's a whole lot simpler for them to make a request. They just come in, make the request in their account. It pops up on my to-do list. I do a couple of clicks and everything is on its way. In terms of what surprised me the most, I have to say, was how easy it was. When Lenore first approached me about doing Parchment, I'll be honest, I was extremely hesitant. And it took her multiple conversations before she convinced me to try it. But I am extremely pleased with the fact that I finally listened to her and took part in it, because it has helped streamline our process immensely. It's also easy for alumni and for third-party requesters to also get what they need from us in a much more timely fashion. And I know that this isn't anything that we pay for, but I will also give a very big shout out to records digitization, because that has been an amazing addition to our process as well. So that's really about all I can say. Nothing but good things.
So Jamie, if anyone has a question for Jamie at this time, if you want to go ahead and put that in the chat and we can have her answer that question. Do you think it was difficult for your students to get signed up to participate?
No, they're all so digitally savvy that I bring them in, I tell them where to go, and they're like halfway through the process before I even have to say anything else to them, to be quite honest. And so it doesn't take long at all.
And so another question I have is, how do you like the reports that you can actually take advantage of and the tracking that's available there for you?
Not only do I find them helpful, but my administration and the board like to be able to see what is being done within the system. And so those are reports that always go to them during the board meetings as well.
So overall, you'd say my hounding you for a little bit paid off.
Yes, it was very much worth it. I know it took a lot longer than you wanted it to, but it did pay off in the end. Yes, absolutely.
And I know that you're not a large school, but it really has saved you and others there a bunch of time, so that you have time to actually work more with the students.
Yes. Like I said, it really streamlined our process. We are not at all a big school, but it seemed like I was spending a larger than necessary chunk of time with all of our paper records, trying to find things for people that were calling in requesting information. And I knew that there had to be a better way. And so we have that in place now, which is really nice. How did I get historical transcripts into the system? That was the digitizing process that is separate from Parchment, the transcript service. And that was at a cost to our district, but it was well worth the investment, because now I don't have to go and dig through 3 different rooms where all of our records were located. I can click on my system that's on my computer and find exactly what I need. So that was
And I think I'll have Paul, when he comes up and talks in more detail, actually address
yeah,
what schools do on an individual basis for getting alumni records. So he can
yes.
handle that as.
Probably will, but yeah, that's what we did. We went through that process with Parchment, and now all of our records are digitally accessible, and we only have to upload whatever graduating class we have every year at this point. And I've learned how to do that, so we won't necessarily have another time where we have to go through another massive project again. So.
And since you mentioned that upload, is that a process that you feel most everyone can handle? It's not a very difficult process. It's something that you can follow some instructions. I know that a lot of individuals are worried about that. It's like,
Yeah.
I'll hear them say, oh my gosh, I'm not going to know how to do that. But I also know that Parchment has a lot of tutorials and videos out there that you can utilize that seem to be helpful. Individuals come back and tell me that.
Yes. For the transcript service, there are lots and lots of videos out there that I still reference them all the time because there are certain things that you don't do on a daily basis that I sometimes need a refresher for during the course of the year. So I'm always referencing their video library for how to do certain things in the system. In terms of the digitization, I would not ever consider myself to be a technology savvy human being. I just am not. I'm just not. But Parchment made it very easy, and they were extremely patient with me in teaching me how to do the things that I had to do to make the system function. And how, when we were in transition and they had our records before I had, and while I was still trying to fulfill requests, they were very patient in explaining how to do that and showing me how to do that and giving me directions how to do that. So they were wonderful. And then at the end, they were also able to provide me with the instructions about how to do this at the end of every year with our senior classes files, so that we could just continue the process ourselves. So it was really a wonderful experience.
Well, I know that you have to get going to another meeting that's come up, and I don't want to take any more of your time. ISAC really does appreciate your participation in this, as we know that some of the time it's a scary thing to go from paper transcripts to everything automated, and will it actually do what ISAC and Parchment is telling the schools it's easy and it's user friendly, and we can say all that, but sometimes it's nice for them to be able to hear it directly from someone who was kind of a little skeptical and now has thoroughly embraced it and would not go back to paper. I don't think
I would never go back, ever.
So, but
thank you for letting me speak today. I appreciate it, Lenore. You guys have a great day.
No problem. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
So I'm going to go ahead without further ado, and I'm going to introduce you to Paul McMurrow. I'm going to give him presentation rights here so he can start the presentation for you, and he can walk you through. As you go along, if there's questions that you're going to have for Paul, feel free to ask them now, because that's what this time is for you to get all of your questions answered. I think, Paul, you should be ready to go.
Perfect. Can you see my screen okay, Lenore?
I absolutely can. Thank you.
All right, fantastic. Well, good morning, everybody. Nice to meet you. As Lenore has mentioned, my name is Paul McMorrow. I'm the regional sales manager here at Parchment, specifically assigned to Illinois, where I help out really in two capacities. The first is really what the purpose of meeting today. I help high schools and districts across the state that are currently not registered with Parchment just to learn more and hopefully eventually register with our services. But then the second, which Jamie mentioned earlier, is I help existing Parchment members explore additional services like diploma services, where we offer paper or digital diplomas for districts. But then what Jamie was mentioning also is records digitization, where we can take all of your older legacy files that you have maybe stored in file cabinets, locked away somewhere in a dungeon in your school, and actually get them digitized and loaded into your Parchment account. So as Jamie mentioned, those additional services like diplomas and digitization are not covered by the ISAC Transcript Exchange, but if you are an existing member and you want to learn more about those, I can help out with that. But to get started today, let's go ahead and take a look at the agenda. First, we'll go over a quick overview of Parchment's mission, who we are, what we're all about, and then we'll make sure really to get into the meat of the presentation today, which is a demo. And a demo for you to see really two things. Number one, what does the student experience look like when they actually go through and order their transcript to be sent to a particular destination? And then number two, what do you all see as administrators, whether you're a counselor or a registrar, have some responsibility for records requests? What do you see in your Parchment account when you log in and you're responsible for taking care of those? We'll do our best to save some time at the end for questions and answers, but any questions that we're not able to get to today, please feel free to direct those to me or to Lenore, and we'll be able to get you your answers. So with that, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about who Parchment is. So whenever I give the background on Parchment as an organization, I always start with our mission, just because it's so important. So Parchment's mission is to turn credentials into opportunities. And that mission is the very foundation that we build every single product and service on here at Parchment. So we very much are a student-focused organization. And we're a student-focused organization because we recognize that students aren't just students, they're people. And they are people that are going to progress through their life, either academically or professionally, or probably both. And so as they are making their way through their particular pathway, we know that there are different steps that they have to take. And at each step along the way, they may have to call upon the credentials that they've earned up to that point to be able to achieve and get that next opportunity right there in front of them. So Parchment wants to play the small but important role of being that service that a student can rely on to have all of their credentials in one location in their learner profile that's associated with their Parchment account, so that whenever they need them and need to send them to any destination, they're there ready to go. So that's what Parchment is all about. We are here to empower your students to really help them turn their credentials into opportunities. So how do we do that then? That's our mission, but what's a little bit more concrete behind that? Well, with Parchment, we know that just as Jamie said, folks are responsible for so much now within their schools and underneath their roles and titles and responsibilities. And so we want to make the records management process for folks at schools as simple as possible. So should you choose Parchment, you are choosing a single platform so that you can have all of your current student requests, alumni requests, or even third-party requests in one centralized location. Today, you may handle records requests for your current students with folks, walking in person, filling out a request form. Maybe they're calling you or shooting you an email. Maybe your alumni are trying to do the same thing, call you, or third parties are faxing you. But with Parchment, we consolidate and centralize all of those channels into one, so that every single request comes in via Parchment and every single request goes out via Parchment. So you're only monitoring one particular channel for all of your records requests. In addition to that, because a Parchment account can grow with your students, it's not just limited to those that are currently enrolled. If you select Parchment, you're offering the best available records and credential management service for your current students today and for when they become alumni tomorrow. It is something that they'll continue to have access to and be able to call upon their records at any time. And all of this adds up to what Jamie was describing. It saved time. The simplicity is going to increase your operational efficiency for handling records requests and give you time back in your day that you can reinvest in other places. In addition to that, you're going to get access to Parchment's very robust network of destinations. So a little over 95% of colleges and universities across the country are Parchment members, meaning they've signed agreements with us and have a specific inbox for Parchment requests where they collect transcripts and other credentials. But the network isn't just limited to colleges. There's scholarship organizations. You can send directly to the military or NCAA. Different third-party organizations are also Parchment members, like background check companies or employers. And one thing to point out here, just because you have a student that's, maybe on the college path, right? They have access to Parchment Network. We have so many colleges and universities, that's great. But what about other students that may not be on the college path? Parchment can support all pathways. You can select the destination for your transcript as a specific email address. So maybe a student is applying to a college that's a little bit smaller, not part of Parchment's network. They could send their transcript directly to the admissions counselor that they're working with securely via Parchment. Same thing for students that need to send their transcripts directly to an employer because they're entering the workforce after graduation. So we want to make sure that you understand that in selecting Parchment, you can support all of your students and all pathways as well. So when you zoom out and you think about Parchment and really what we're trying to solve for, time and time again, year after year, we have high schools that join Parchment, join our network, and we just hear that the headaches and the frustrations that they've historically had with their transcript management process, they melt away. They're no longer worrying about something that's manual or sending records out in the mail where they lose the ability to track them. All of those headaches you no longer have, right? Everything is accessible, everything is visible, both for you and your students. And just like we heard Jamie say, they never want to go back, and more often than not, they wish they had come on board sooner. So hammering down into the specifics of what you actually get out of the ISAC Transcript Exchange, and Lenore touched on this a little bit, but just to go through it again, number one, this truly is a free service for you and your students. So your students will not be charged when they go through and order their electronic transcript to be sent. It's an all-you-can-eat model where they can send their transcript to 20 destinations and they'll never see a fee. Additionally, you, the school or the district, you are not going to get an invoice for this service. ISAC is covering the cost for you. We also include the training and implementation as well. If a student or an alumni did want to send a hard copy of their transcript to a particular destination, maybe there's a smaller local scholarship opportunity they're interested in, and for whatever reason, those folks want a hard copy, they can still make that as a format selection for their transcript to be print and mailed, where Parchment will be the ones to actually print and mail it on your behalf. And if a student were to select that, it would be $2.75. And then as we've mentioned, your alumni have access to Parchment as well, but they'll pay our standard transaction rate of $4.40 when they request their transcript. One last thing to touch on, because it is so popular with our members, both in K-12 and in higher ed, Parchment is an option for you to turn it into a revenue generating tool for your school or district. You have the ability to add surcharges to particular records requests, like alumni transcript requests, or very popularly, those verification requests that are placed by third-party organizations. We have folks that will add $10, $15, $20 surcharges there because they're doing the work of verifying graduation, and that cost does not get passed along to the student. So you can then use those dollars that you earn via surcharges for anything you'd like, whether it be an additional Parchment service like digitization or diploma services, or maybe you want to start your own scholarship in your guidance office and use those dollars for that, or pay for something in your department. It's completely up to you. So just a couple quick bullet points we wanted to go through so that you understand exactly what you're getting out of it. If you decide later that you have additional questions, or maybe you actually want to register with Parchment under the ISAC Transcript Exchange, please contact me directly. I'd be the one that would work with you to get you the agreement to send over for signature. Once the agreement is signed, then we load you into our implementation queue. And our implementation folks would then work with you directly to create your account, help you with those transcript uploads that Lenore was mentioning so that you're able to use the service in the most efficient manner. So I'll go ahead and pause there before transitioning over to the demo. Lenore, any questions that I can address now?
We had one question come in, but I went ahead and addressed it. It was simply about, can a student view their transcript from their Parchment account?
Got it. Got it. Yep, they absolutely can. They have the ability to view a transcript in their account at any time if they'd like, and that is also the account that they'll use to initiate their request. All right, so with that, I think we're ready to jump into the demonstration today. So the first piece that I'll show you is the student experience. So let's imagine for a second that you become a Parchment member. One of the first things that we'll have you do as you work through the implementation process is we'll have you place this order records button directly on your website here. You can place it in multiple locations. So if you want it directly on your high school homepage or your district homepage, that is fantastic. Very easy for then an alumni who calls you or a third party calling you saying, hey, I need to order a credential, for you to say, just go to our homepage, click on the order records button and place your request there. You can also place it on your department page. So if you want it on the school counseling site, or maybe even in your email signature. So that way, when you're emailing with an alumni that needs a transcript, you can just reference your signature and say, click on that particular link to order your transcript through Parchment. And so when we click on that button, it will actually take you to your custom ordering site assigned to your particular school. So for today, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and log in as a currently enrolled student and place our request so that you get to see exactly what that workflow looks like. So first things first, when you log into Parchment and you're getting ready to initiate an order, Parchment will first ask you, what credential type do you want to order? So here in the demo account, we just have a transcript available. But if you wanted to add other credentials to your storefront, you absolutely could do that. Some districts or high schools have access to immunization records, for example. You could add that as an orderable document if you'd like. So for today, we'll go ahead and select transcript. And after making that selection, Parchment will ask us, where would you like that transcript to be sent? So using this search bar, this is where a student can search through all of our destinations that are in our network. So for today, I'll go ahead and type in college here in Michigan State. It'll populate with that information, and I will make that selection as our destination. Once I've made that selection for where I'd like my transcript to go, Parchment is going to show me our item details screen. It will show me, the student, very clearly where my transcript is being sent from, who it is being sent to, if there are any fees associated with the order. So again, for your currently enrolled students, when they request this to be sent electronically like this, they will always see zeros there. This is where your alumni would see that $4.40 fee. And then Parchment will also ask, when would you like this transcript to be sent? Now, by default, send now is always the selection. However, during the spring, when you're getting closer to final transcript season, your students can actually select hold for grades as an option as for when they'd like their transcript to be sent. Because again, in April, they might know that they were going to Michigan State, but their final transcript isn't ready yet, right? That usually becomes available later in June. So for those students in the spring, when they select hold for grades, all of your transcript orders for final transcript season line up in a hold queue in your Parchment account. so you don't have to process them right away. And then when June comes around and you do have final transcripts available in your student information system, you can load those final transcripts in and then go into Parchment and in one click process all of the final transcript requests that you have that have been lined up and put on hold all spring. Really, really nice that our members love about final transcript season. But for now, we'll go ahead and select Send Now. If I scroll down here a little bit, we see a signature here for consent. So Parchment is 100% FERPA compliant. We'll go ahead and provide that consent now, and then I'll continue with the order. Once I continue there, I now see an order summary showing me all the details for that particular order. But let's just say that Bobby here wants to add a second transcript to be sent to a different destination. Maybe he's eligible for a good grades discount on his car insurance and wants to send a copy there, or maybe to an employer for some reason. We can go ahead and add another item to the order, and it will bring us back just to the beginning of the process again, where we'll select a transcript. And now, instead of searching through the network of receivers of Parchment, we can select this other option where I want to send a copy of myself or to another individual, like an employer. And so first, Parchment will ask you, okay, what's the delivery method that you would like to select for this second order? Electronic is by default, but then again, as I mentioned before, if a student did need to send a hard copy to some destination, they could make that selection. And again, Parchment would be the ones to actually print and mail and send that out. So we'll go ahead, enter the destination for our second transcript here, hit continue, and we're brought right back to the items details screen again, confirming cost, where it's going, when we'd like it sent, and then providing consent. And now, when we get to the order summary page, we see very clearly both orders in alignment, ready to go. So if I'm Bobby Hill here, the student, and I'm ready to submit my order, I'll go ahead and hit complete, and I'm done. It takes me about a minute or two tops for me to go through the workflow and actually request my transcript to be sent to those destinations. One other thing that I want to show you on the student side before jumping over to the administrator account is exactly what Jamie was describing, the concept of visibility and transparency. When you're emailing transcripts out as attachments, or if you're placing them physically in the mail, you have no idea when they've actually arrived or if they've been downloaded and properly received by the recipient. But with Parchment, you do. So here we see a particular order that we just placed for that one for Michigan State. Parchment will say, hey, where's my transcript? Your order was submitted to the high school and is waiting for somebody there to review and approve it. That's why the high school logo is currently glowing orange. Once the order has been processed and actually delivered to the destination, the order will receive, or excuse me, the logo right here for recipient will glow. So students get 3 emails sent their way. They get an email when they place their request, they get a second when you approve and process the request, and then they get a third when it's been officially received and downloaded by the recipient. So those are all the items that I wanted to show you on the actual learner side. I'm going to take just a couple of seconds here to queue up the admin side for the demo, and then we'll jump into that.
Again, go ahead and feel free to post your questions in the chat.
Okay. We go. So now I'm getting logged in to the administrator experience so that you all get to see what does it look like when I actually have to process transcript requests. So by default, when you log into the Parchment, this is your home page. It brings you right to your to-do list, as we call it, which shows you any open orders that are pending, awaiting your approval. So if we take a look at this particular order here at the top, running from left to right, or from left to right, we see first the learner's information from their account of placing the request. In the middle here, we see the credential type that was ordered along with the date and the destination. And then the third item we see on the right-hand side is whether or not Parchment was able to auto-match a transcript directly to the order, which you yourself are able to view. So one of the coolest things that you can do with Parchment is upload your transcripts ahead of time from your student information system. And you really just upload two items. The first is a roster of your learners. So just an Excel file, let's say, of the class of 2025, your seniors, with first name, last name, date of birth, grad year, and student ID. And you load that into your learners tab. Once the roster is uploaded, you go back into your student information system and pull a single PDF of all of the transcripts for your seniors. So one PDF file with many, many pages in it. And once you load that PDF of the transcripts into Parchment, we will match up all the transcripts to the corresponding roster record. That way, when Bobby, your senior, places a transcript request, we're going to auto match the transcript to it, and in one click, you can process the order. You're done. You were able to send their transcript directly to the destination. But what would happen, let's say, if we had an alumni that placed a request and they're from a graduation class that's outside of your student information system? So Larry Bird here, we see graduated in 1974. He's requested a transcript, but as we can see, Parchment was not able to auto match a transcript to the order because we don't have Larry's transcript in the system. So for that, all you need to do, there's two options. Option number one, you simply go to your file cabinet where you have your old alumni stored, you pull Larry's transcript, scan it into a PDF, and you can actually just attach it directly to the order itself. Once you do that, Parchment will show you the manual match icon here. So just one additional step. The second option, as Jamie had mentioned, they elected to pay for a records digitization service where Parchment's digitize all of her old files so that those, even when an older alumni orders, those are auto-matched. And then the last thing that I want to show you on the to-do list is a verification request. So background check companies like HireRight, First Advantage, even Sterling, those are the big three in the background check space. They're all Parchment members. So they're going to place a verification request to you directly to your Parchment account, as opposed to calling you over and over again or sending emails and faxes. And in Parchment, you can simply verify that this individual did graduate and send a verification back to that background check company. So it will show you the details from the requester of who they're placing this request on behalf of. You then have your enrollment details, right, of this particular student, along with whether or not you can verify that they graduated, the date of their graduation, and the credential that they earned. Once you're satisfied with all of that information, you can actually generate in real time a verification certificate. And this is what will be sent back to the requester of that background check company. So if I hit save and close, we now see on this particular order that the verification has been auto-generated by you. It is attached to the order. And again, in as little as one click, you can process it and have it sent that way. Two more items that I want to show you before we wrap up is first, the history tab. So like Lenore and Jamie were mentioning, you have the ability to look and run all sorts of different reports in Parchment as far as order processing is concerned. And that's because every single order that is ever placed in Parchment is tracked here. So if you wanted to run a particular report, maybe you wanted to see how many transcript requests did we get this particular fall, you can isolate a particular date range that you'd like, run the report, and then export that to Excel. But for the sake of today, I'll just run a search with no information so we get to see all of the orders that have been placed. Again, you'll get the full order details of who requested, when the order came through, where it was delivered to, and the live status of that particular order as to whether or not it's been delivered to the destination. So that's your history tab. And then the last thing that I wanted to show you was back on the to-do list real quick. Let me hop back over. It's that on hold queue. So let's say Bobby Hill here, He's placed his transcript request, but you know what? He has an overdue library fine, something like that, where you don't want to actually process his order. You can place that order on hold with a custom message letting them know exactly why you're not going to process that order. And once you do, that order will slide over to your on hold queue. This is the same queue I described before for final transcript season. When those students select hold for grades, this on hold queue will fill up. Once Bobby pays his fine or once final grades are posted, you can simply remove the hold. It will slide back over to your open orders tab, and then you can process it just like that. So with that, Lenore, I know we have about 4 minutes left, so I'll go ahead and stop right there and see if we have any questions for wrapping up.
Okay, if you have questions for Paul, now's the time to go ahead and put that in the chat box over there. And, you know, we've been very proud to be able to present this program through Parchment, like I said, to all public and private schools now. And we've been doing this for a long time. It's not something new, it's well proven. We have over 400 schools outside of Chicago public schools that have really been using it just with all of their students. So that their students can actually send transcripts, not just electronically here in Illinois, which is our first thought, but also all across the United States and even worldwide, they have the ability to do that. And we know that the quicker the turnaround, then the better position Illinois students have for their post-secondary admission considerations, as Paul mentioned, scholarships and even job competition, because our alumni are looking for those transcripts as well. And so they're needing that quickly for consideration for their jobs. So current students, alumni students, third-party requests, all of those we can take care of. So I know it's our hope that between Paul's presentation, what you heard Jamie discuss today, that you really have seen just how easy and simple it is to use the Transcript Exchange powered by Parchment. And I'm not seeing any questions come through yet, Paul. But I do know that one of the questions that I sometimes hear is this just for our current seniors to use? And what I've had other counselors, registrars come back and tell me is, sometimes depending on the size of your school, it may be challenging to get students to enroll every year. So one of the things that I hear over and over that works well is to just make this part of your registration process so that you don't just start out with, having only seniors take part in this, but actually go ahead and make it part of your registration. So you're picking up your new students, your freshmen, all the way through senior year, so that those students have the ability to utilize this to their advantage. They're also taking a look, and they can order a current transcript to look at. And I know that counselors like this because they can use that as a counseling tool when they're having their meetings. So, all of these things are just a really great benefit to your students. So not only is it saving the registrar and counselor's time, but it's also saving the students' time.
Yeah, and one quick question that came in from Patrice. She asked, how could I get a price or a quote on the digitization process for historical older student records? So if anybody's interested in that, email me directly. We can schedule a conversation for a discovery call where I would collect some data regarding the old records that you have. What's the format? Is it paper, microfilm, microfiche? What's the volume are we talking about here? How many grad years? How many students? Once I collect that information after a quick call, we can put together a quote for you for digitization.
Yeah, and so as Paul mentioned, it's really easy to get started. You simply need to, you can reach out to me if you have questions about ISAC specific participation, or directly to Paul. There's going to be a meeting scheduled with Parchment to discover your individual school needs. There's going to be a user agreement to review and sign by your principal and superintendent. And then Parchment staff is really going to get you started on the implementation process. So I know we're coming up on a time now. We promised you we'd be done at 10:45, and we don't want to take any more of your time. But in closing, I simply ask, what are you waiting for? No cost to participate, safe and secure, saves your time and the school's money. It's easy for you and your students to use. And so we really can't wait to hear from you. So enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for coming.